here it's a lot harder to get bigger fish, so a 20-pound striped bass might be the biggest fish we can get all year, but it's going to be a really quality fish for us, because up here where we are in Massachusetts, it's hard to get big fish, and when we get the big fish, it's really fun to actually hook into something good finally. It's going to happen. We're going to catch a big fish this year.
My name is Finn Hawley. I'm just an average 15-year-old. Everybody else is playing video games or whatever they do. I'm just fishing, that's all I do. Fishing, learning about fishing, talking about fishing. It's just obsessed. I'm obsessed.
Striped bass is probably the biggest game fish that you can catch on the North Shore from shore. There are also a fish that a lot of people use for food. For Massachusetts, the limit is 1 keeper a day, and that has to be 28 inches. Lure fishing from a kayak, bait fishing, and fly fishing. That's like what I do as far as fishing goes. Now, we're gonna start with lure fishing. What I'm going to say is there's 3 main advantages to lure fishing. You can cast farther, you can catch more fish, and you can catch more big fish. Okay, let's talk bombers. Bomber long A, which is this, red-headed bomber long A. Where I fish, this lure produces the most fish and the biggest fish around. The top 2 producing lures where I fish is topwater lures, mostly chugging topwater lures, and swimming lures. Because the main forage of these striped bass are mackerel, so you have to throw stuff that really mimics a mackerel. The reason I like to lure fish is I feel that I can catch more fish, and I also am pretty impatient, so I like to actually actively be doing something. Now, fly fishing has only one distinct advantage, and that advantage is you can match a small profile bait that you can't with a lure, and you can't with bait. Fly fishing is so much fun because it's more hands-on. It's pretty much tug of war, and then if the fish is strong enough, it will bring you into a reel. But at the beginning, it's tug of war with the fish, really. And if it's a really big fish, it's a lot of fun because you'll hook set and it will rip the line out of your hand. I mean, it's just light tackle. And who doesn't like catching fish with big fish with light tackle? Look at this. Not a bad fish on the fly rod. Not a bad fish at all. I take this guy any day of the week. Fishing so far this year has been interesting because it started off actually pretty okay with a bunch of like 20 to 25 inchers right at the first 2 weeks of the season, and then all of a sudden it just dropped and we were getting tiny little fish, not very many of the fish either. It's either the weather or just, I don't know, there's not been a lot of striped bass this year. I've tried so many different lures, I've tried so many different methods of fishing, and it's just been so dead slow. This is normally when we get 40 pounders in. This is when the keepers are here in full force, and generally I can get 1 or 2 per like 3 weeks. Was what I was going for last year. I got like 1 or 2 per 3 weeks, and that was what was happening. Every 3 weeks I was able to get like 1 keeper. And I was like, okay, next year I'm gonna do a lot of research and I'm gonna learn how to fish better and I'm gonna go catch a lot of big fish. But my problem is the beach changed so much that I'm relearning here and I haven't seen any big fish. I just broke my nicest rod I have. This is why striped bass fishing is so annoying. All the tackle stores and people that I've met fishing and everybody that I talked to said the same thing. Average bass being caught was between 13 and 25 inches. People that are actually really good fishermen said that they fish every day and they only caught 1 keeper or caught 0 keepers all year. I'm like looking at fishing reports online and I'm seeing not a whole lot of like sizes coming from shore fishermen, but the people that are, you know, not that far offshore are catching, you know, the 20 to 30, 40 pound bass that we weren't. And the only place that you could catch keepers from shore was really the canal. It was the only place that was lit up as far as I knew. Now, when you went over to the canal, the average bass that they were getting out there was like 35 inches, and they were getting them consistently big all summer long. It's like at 2 hours. See?
Starting route to Bourne Bridge.
1 hour.
Proceed to Eagle Head Road.
1 hour and 47 minutes. I feel like that wouldn't be that bad.
It's really not. This time going to the canal is our purpose was, okay, we're gonna try to catch a fish finally. That's all I wanted. I only wanted 1 fish at the canal, that was it. That was all I wanted. I didn't want a big one, I just wanted like, you know, 8 fish at the canal. Just to say I've caught a fish at the Cape Cod Canal. We went there for 1 day. We have family that lives up in the Cape, so it was like good, we can go stay with them and whatnot. When we first pulled up, there's a pier there and there's a couple guys hooked up on fish. And we were like, and we saw some mackerel and we saw some bait. So we were like, okay, there's bait in the water, that's good. This is more of a swing-by mission. We're going up to Brewster in Cape Cod, which is gonna be awesome because we're gonna be doing some flats fishing. So on our way down, we were like, okay, in the morning, let's swing down early, and let's do some fishing. And we got here and the parking lot was full of cards and people leaving with their one fish limit of 30, 33, 34 inches. So they're definitely here, but we're just fishing down the canal and then we're gonna call it and leave. So hopefully we can find something. Well, I gotta follow up from like a 33 incher, pretty much. I'm using the pencil, and we're out here on the flats. Next time I might bring my fly rod though. What I was feeling at that point was a lot of pressure because I wasn't actually producing large fish. And I thought that, going to the canal and being on the flats in the Cape would produce fish. Now, when I was there once already, got skunked at the canal, got skunked on the Brewster Flats. We left the Cape and we had the decision to fish on the national seashore. But when we got closer to the time that we were actually about to go, I was like, you know what? I really think that we should just go to the canal. We get there, everybody's hooked up with 30-pounders the entire way down the canal. And we're like, okay, this is gonna get interesting. We're casting. I couldn't get fish. I kept getting hit every once in a while by a very large fish. And then finally, I see some fish swim by that were smaller. They were probably, again, smaller as in like 15 to 20 pound fish, which are really nice fish. Like any day of the week, I would love to catch these fish. But then I cast out a little bit farther than them. I'm reeling it pretty fast. And then all of a sudden I just hit this fish and then it just whips around and takes off. And it goes, the line's screaming out of this thing, and my drag is tight. I have 30-pound test, and I'm pulling on it, and it's going, and it just keeps going, it just keeps going, it just doesn't stop. It's probably 150 yards down the canal, and I'm holding on to this fish, and I'm like, okay, my drag is locked down for 30-pound test. It was literally, it was like ting, 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 ting. Like, it was really like as far stretched out as 30-pound test drag could go. I had like as much pressure on that fish as I could get. And finally, it slowed down just a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take my time, I'm gonna reel this fish in. So I was pumping nice and slowly, getting this fish in, trying to make sure I was not giving it any slack. I was getting this fish right up to me, and then all of a sudden, I see this fish just emerge out of the water. And I'm like, oh my gosh. This is the largest striped bass I've ever seen in my entire life. And I pull him up on the canal, and I'm trying to get my hand to his gill, but I couldn't, so I just grabbed the stick shad and I pull him up. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. As soon as I felt how heavy this fish was, I knew this was not a regular fish. And then we get on, my dad has bow grip, and then that only goes to 50, and he picks up his bow grip that only goes to 50, it bottoms out his, and we're like, this is an over 50-pound bass. I couldn't even believe it. I'm 15 years old, and I hooked a fish that people spend their entire lives going after, and I happened to get one at 15 years old. Wow. The words can't explain how happy I am to catch this fish. This is insane. Oh my gosh. Like, it blowed my mind that I was actually able to hook into this fish. This is the dreams of fishermen. People dream about catching this fish. I joke as I'm going out, I would say to my family, oh, I'm gonna go catch a 50 today. And I go out there, I actually caught a 50-pound striped bass. It was a little over 50 pounds. We don't know the dimensions. We were trying to get it in the water as fast as could to revive it and release it. And I got in the water, we took a couple pictures of it in the water. I revived it nice, and then he kicked and I released him. And he came off and his fins were up and he just went right into the current, turned, and then swam away. that's the story of me hooking and landing a 50-pound striped bass. I don't know what to say. That's it. I believe that because of how much striped bass mean to me, that I couldn't have kept a fish like that because it just has been around for so long and it had survived through so much. It's just so rare to catch a fish that's that big. And that whole day seeing people keeping 30 and 40-pound bass, just hundreds of them lined up on the canal. I saw that when we were going down and I just couldn't believe it. So when I caught that bass, there's no doubt in my mind that I was gonna release it, because that is like what I believe everybody should do. You shouldn't keep any bass that's above 35 inches. No bass should be kept above 35 inches. And it's just such a shame that the striped bass have been declining in population so heavily, even though there has been good signs of a healthy population of schoolie striped bass this season and the season before. It's still, we need to do a lot more work to get the striped bass stocks back up. I hope that everyone that striped bass fishes can actually catch a fish that big and then see it release successfully into the water. See it like fins go out and it turn into the water and just dart off and just like, I did it.